Welcome to Malware Analysis for Hedgehogs. Today's video is about tips and tricks for writing technical papers or blog articles where where malware analysis is the topic. So, of course, there are lots of sites out there that will help you out with how to make technical papers and scientific papers. So read those, they also apply to you. But I want to cover a few things that are specific for malware analysis. And first thing is which language to use. In case of malware analysis, I suggest you use English, even if that is not your mother tongue. The reason is you have to be able to communicate in English anyways if you want to become, or if you are in the malware analysis community. So you have a much broader audience. If you use English, you can reach more people who understand this. So, secondly, your target audience will usually be other malware researchers, malware analysts, so technical people in that area with a high technical understanding. So for that, I suggest you avoid any clickbait titles or these marketing style buzzwords for your paper, because they make it seem like this is a low quality paper. They make it seem like it's not so serious and nothing they should read. Technical people will actually be turned off by that. So what's also important, you should add proper classification and proper identification. So what is that? Classification is which type of malware are you analyzing there. So the malware types are based on their behavior. So one malware can have several types. And you can also give it several types. You see that with the words ransom worm. There's like ransomware and worm put into this new word, ransom worm. But usually if you will take the most severe type, like if there's a virus that also shows adware that also shows ads, you will not call it adware because it's more importantly a virus. Virus is just the threat from a virus is just more severe than if you think of adware, you would think of programs that are potentially unwanted but not malicious. So the proper identification, that means the malware family. That's an entire topic for another video. I would say how to find the family if you have a sample. But the most common approach that works for me is unpack the sample if it's packed, upload it to VirusTotal, see what detection names you get. Reliable ones are from ESET and Microsoft. Look at them and then check the malware family name and see if there's an analysis article out there about this family. And then you can compare the things you found for your own sample with the technical analysis that's already there and see if that's your family. Cite your sources. Of course, you should always cite your sources. That's true for every scientific paper, but you should also do this in blog articles. And if you should also not only add the sources where you cite someone or where you use someone else's work, you should also add the malware sample hashes in. Most people put it like in if it's in a blog article, like in down below in the last section. And you don't have to provide a download for these samples, but if you do, please do that using a password protected archive with a warning, and use the password infected or virus or similar. So every person who is able to unpack this archive will know from the password that this contains malware. So that way you make sure that no one infects themselves well, without knowing the risk. And yeah, if you use any pictures and diagrams in the text, please explain them. Don't just assume, oh, I put this picture of the source code here, that's enough, no explanation needed. No, you should always tell something about it, what you see in there, what's the most important thing you can draw from that picture. So let someone proofread really things that make sense in your mind will not necessarily make sense in other people's minds, because you have a different knowledge than them, and sometimes sentences can be read differently, and you won't even realize that there's like a second meaning to that sentence that you didn't see. So just let someone proofread, someone with a fresh mind, and then just to get rid of the most obvious errors in there. Then please consider using a nickname instead of your real name. I mean, if it's a scientific paper, if it's your research, if you want to present this at conferences, you will use your real name. But if you write blog articles on a regular basis, you might consider using a nickname instead of the real name. There have been incidents where malware authors or threat actors have threatened malware analysts who happened to analyze the wrong malware, because like they got upset about this and didn't want them to dig deeper, so they threatened them even with death. So consider using nickname. For me, it's too late, obviously. Be careful with attribution. Better leave it out entirely. Attribution is hard. It's not your task unless you work for the police. You can add things like, okay, obviously the developer knows how to write in Russian because the comments of this malware are in Russian, or the function names or whatever. You can make these assumptions, but they should never be stated as facts. Even then, even if you write, oh, the author is Russian, that might not be true. It might just a person posing as a Russian. So, a person who knows how to write Russian. So it doesn't have to be an actual person who lives in Russia or something. So that better leave it out if you are in doubt. Terminology is a very important topic. People will judge you by the terminology you use. So please avoid noob mistakes like calling every malware virus. A virus is a specific malware type, and if you call every malware virus and it's quite obvious that you do that, no one will take you seriously anymore. Then skid terms should be avoided, and or maybe skid terminology is the wrong word, but rather this malware marketing terminology. You should avoid that. The malware scene has their own language, and it's a marketing language. They want to sell malware, so they want to use words that sound very good to the buyers. So they will call a simple macro downloader an Office exploit, although it's not an exploit, it's just a downloader without using any vulnerability in Office. So this. Also, scan time crypto is similar. There is in the malware analysis world, there is no scan time crypto, there are only droppers. Because scan time crypto will drop the file that they have encrypted in them. They are just malware droppers and nothing else. Then you should, it's especially important in malware analysis if you have a lot of terms that are taken for granted, but yet they have several definitions that are conflicting to each other. So, for instance, the term virus. Everyone will have an opinion about what's a virus, what's a worm, how do you distinguish between the two, but everyone uses their own definition for that, and there's no common ground not at all. So if you have a scientific paper where you actually can write a lot of stuff, where it's important to be precise, please define the terms before you use them. That's very important in the scientific sense. For blog articles, not so much. I haven't seen people who do that for blog articles, but scientific papers, research papers and so on, please define the terms and build up on proper resources. Like, you might not want to create your own definition, but use one that has already been used in books and papers before. So cite the sources, and then it's quite okay. Everyone will know what you mean if you say this word, you know. So what happens if other people published first? Like, you are working on this brand new malware family, everyone's talking about that, you write an article and you realize, oh, someone else published first and they write the exact same stuff that I also found. Well, first you may try to find information that's not already published. Like, in the case of the Spora article, I also wrote about Spora a year ago. And everyone wrote an article about that ransomware, and the worm component was actually the thing that I found that was new about it and that people completely ignored, or any article that was before mine ignored the fact that this was actually a worm. So I published this article anyways, and it was useful because it contained new information. And if you find out these things by yourself and write this and do not copy it from others, this will be something that you realize if you read that article, that it's not copy pasted. So you might phrase things in a way that is better for other people to understand. So if you take your time and make it a high quality article, it's of use for others if you publish it anyways, because you might have a way of presenting this that's just better than the articles before you. Yeah, and what do you write about malware usually? Well, that depends what interesting things you find about it, but usually it's interesting how the malware is delivered, how it persists, and how it does any harm to the system or the user. So these three basic points should work, and anything else that's interesting about it. So have fun writing any malware related articles, and see you next time. Bye bye. I bet you want to see me using this. Maybe I will do this sometime.